Blue Snowball. There's a reason my partner calls me an eepling. Now my veil is fully liberated from the elastic strap of my mask, and I can start this for real. So, this is Twinkle, the Abyssal Ice Angel Dragon. I've got to find a way to make that more concise. Here to talk to you about worship, specifically dragons and worship. Now, I'm going to start us with a personal story. This was when I was out of body in the astral. I made a little circle for myself so that I could invoke my co-magician dragon. And if you don't know what a co-magician dragon is, it's kind of like your dragon mentor, dragon teacher, the dragon you work most closely with on your path. I believe the concept was originated by DJ Conway in her series of dragon magic books, but I called my co-magician, and I couldn't really see them, but I felt their presence, and I felt the urge to bow down, so I did. And immediately, I could feel that my co-magician did not like this. It wasn't really like a verbal, spoken thing, but like, I could feel that they were telling me, no, don't do that. Don't bow down. And so I'm going to discuss worship. What is it? Does it fit into a draconic practice? And in my personal opinion, generally, no, the draconic path generally isn't conducive to a worship style of devotion. But if you want to, you certainly can. I'm not going to tell you not to. For starters, let's get into what even is worship. What do we mean when we say this? And I'll be consulting my notes here. I don't have a script, but I do have notes written down. For sources, I'm pulling this information from BibleStudyTools.com and from EtymologyWorld.com. So, for starters, worship comes from the Old English word wirthsipe. Please do look up pronunciations for that if you get a chance. Wirthsipe. This word translates to give worth to. It simply means to hold something in high esteem or regard, to value it, and if this was the sole connotation of the word worship, I would have no problem with it. I would actively encourage it for any sort of practice, but it's evolved to kind of mean something else. The Hebrew word for worship is shakah, which means to depress, to fall down, or to lay prostrate before a deity. It's, you hold something up with such reverence, honor, and esteem that your own desire is to bow down before it, and that's directly quoted from Bible Study Tools. This practice of worship is required by God, and it is an act of submission and of obedience. How I hear it described that most makes sense to me is when you worship your God, essentially you serve them. It's an act of service to the God, and my kind of personal thing on this is I think that religion, spiritual tools, magic should serve the practitioner and not the other way around, and that's kind of the main reason I don't practice worship. But onto the draconic perspective on this. Now, as we have established, no two dragons are quite the same. Every single one is going to have a different perspective. Some might like this, some might not. The main reason I'm not big about this in a draconic practice is that, as I've talked about before, the dragon represents the divine sovereign, which divine sovereign I'm using to mean the ultimate source of autonomy, free will, and self-determination. As a dragon, you are the architect of your own destiny. There's nothing else telling you what to do. The thing about the divine sovereign is it will always respect the sovereignty of other beings. It will never try to put itself above or command others without their permission to. And personally, this might catch some tails on fire, but I believe that no being that demands worship of the practitioner truly deserves it. I think it's this sort of high level of devotion, bowing down, and sheer reverence. It has to be earned by the deity. You know, I, as the practitioner, I don't, like, even if you are the grand creator from which all things came, I'm not going to worship you just for that. I don't worship my parents just because they gave birth to me. I'm not going to worship source/God just because it created existence. Especially when this existence that we're expected to be so grovelingly grateful for is such a pigsty. I think by and large, most draconic entities would much prefer to meet you on equal ground and teach you to find the divinity and the Godhead within yourself so that you can become the architect of your own destiny. It's like what I've already said about invocation. When you invoke a spirit, you bring it into your energy field, you bring it into your being, and it slowly shapes you to embody traits of itself. Here's the thing, most dragons themselves, there are draconic gods, but most dragons themselves are not gods. You know, dragons are beautiful, divine, absolutely magnificent points of consciousness, and I love them dearly, but, you know, just like most humans, most dragons are really kinda just some guy. You know, you're not going to worship just some guy, even if you're working closely with him. There are dragons who are gods, and in my experience, these sorts of entities tend to be more open to worship. Some will accept it, some will probably even enjoy it. Some dragon gods from my own practice include Tiamat, Abzu, Leviathan, and Nidhogg. There's also Jormungandr, Quetzalcoatl, and just countless others from all over the world. Apep, yeah, it's kind of insane how many of them there really are. And also how the majority of them are heavily demonized, but that's a subject for another day. And in my experience, while they are more open to incorporating worship as a part of a practice, generally they still don't demand it, because, like I said, divine sovereign, they're not going to, like, bark at you to get down on your knees and grovel like, am I worthy? Am I enough? Yes, of course you are. You are always worthy, you are always enough, and you don't ever need an external being to serve in order for you to be good enough. That's just not a thing. You are already this divine, amazing consciousness, and you are deserving of love, you're deserving of respect, you are deserving of all of your wildest dreams, you're deserving of those good manifestations. In the grand scheme of the universe, there is no such thing as sin. You were not born impure. You are born exactly as you need to be. It is the corruption of socialization that bends and twists you into something that feels shame and separation and unworthiness. You were not put here to grovel. But yes. In conclusion, personally, I don't really like worship. I think it's become a pretty toxic practice in the modern day, but if you like worship and that's your particular flavor of devotion, then please, by all means, go ahead. Don't let some weirdo in a ghost costume on the internet tell you otherwise. Exercise some discernment in what sorts of entities you are worshiping, and perhaps more important of all, why you feel compelled to worship, because sometimes there can be some really juiciness stored in that. Anyways, thank you immensely for watching, especially if you've made it this far in the video. I'm probably gonna go suck on some cough drops now because I got that chronic laryngitis. And more importantly, peel off all these cloths.